All right, hello everyone. This is Mrs. Majors from Heron High School. Today we're going to do Preskill 4, computations involving function notation. All right, so when you see something like this, how do you read this? This is f of x. That's how you read it, right? So, and do you actually know that f of x is same as y? Yes, so you need to know that f of x, you can't say it, can you? F of x same as y. So f of x means that function f, when x is the input, then what comes out is going to be the y. Okay, so let's look at the function f of x is equal to the following. Find each of the following. So when you're given f of x and you're trying to find f of -4, how do you do it? So this means, folks, find the y value when x is -4. So what do? You take that -4, you plug it into where the x is, like how you know it. So let's go -2, -4 plus 3, quantity squared plus 4. And you're going to do PEMDAS, parentheses, exponent, multiply to get the y value of 2. So this means when x value is -4 and you plug into the function f, your y value is going to be 2. So please know that that means x value is -1. What's going to be y value? So take -1, plug it in. You're going to get the y value. -4. I did not show you the work, but you can find it, right? F of 0, find the 0, plug it into the x. It's going to be -14? Yeah. Cool? Alright, so now, when you find the value of f of -4, the value of y when x is -4, what does that represent graphically? Well, f of -4 was 2 according to what we did above, right? This means on the graph, when x is -4, y will be 2. So there is going to be a point at -4, 2. Alright, do you agree with that? -2, 2. Okay, so today's lesson is a lot of investigation. Okay, so let's investigate. The graph of f of x is pictured to the right. Do the result of f of -1 and f of 0 calculated above make sense in the context of the graph? Let's see. F of -1, so let's use the graph. F of -1 is when x value is -1. What's the y value? So let's go. On the graph, there's an x value of -1. There's a point. What's the y value? -4. So from the graph, f of -1 is -4. From the graph, f of 0 is somewhere out here. It's a very negative number. So does it make sense? Let's see. From above, f of -1 was -4. Check. F of 0, we got -14 algebraically. It makes sense because it says very negative number. So check. Yes, it does make sense. The graph of f of x has 2 zeros. Remember from algebra 2 what 0 means. What is 0? 0 is x value where the graph crosses or touches x-axis. So you know how to find the zeros easily, right? So where is that at? Where graph intersect with the x-axis, over here are your zeros. The graph f of x clearly crosses x-axis between x equal -4 and x equal -1, which is this one. Based on your computation above, how could you justify the guarantee of this occurring at some value between x equal -4 and x equal -1? Well, do you remember that over here, f of -4 was what? 2. And f of -1 was what? -4. So my y value went from 2 to -4. So if the y value went from 2 to -4, Would you agree that you can guarantee that it passes y equals 0 sometime in between those two? Yes. So that's going to be our explanation of that. There's just a lot of writing. So I'm not going to write it. You can just say that since it went from positive y value to negative y value, we can guarantee that it crosses the 0 in between sometime. Based on the graph, we cannot guarantee exactly what zeros of the functions are. According to the graph, between what pair of x values do the zeros lie? Between x equal -5 and -4? And between x equal -2 and -1. So it's totally between -2 and -1. So those are two x values. And remember, when you're using the graph, one of the downside is that you cannot find the exact value unless it's a whole number. Like this. This is probably going to be some sort of decimal, so we don't know what the exact one will be. Therefore, don't worry, we know how to do it. Another way we can know it is solve it algebraically. Okay, so how do you solve zero? How do you solve the zero of the function again? You're gonna set your y equal to 0. F of x, remember, is same as a y, so we're gonna set the whole thing equal to 0 to solve it. So -2 x plus 3 squared plus 4 is equal to 0. And why are we doing that again? Because 0 means where it touches the x-axis, which is same as the y is equal to 0. So that's what we're doing. So this is finding 0. Let's go. How do you do it? Subtract 4. -2 x plus 3 squared is equal to -4. Divide everything by -2. X plus 3 squared is equal to 2. Now what? You need to solve for x. Notice there's a square, so I need to square root both sides. And when you square root, folks, you need to remember to put the plus or minus in the front. So that's why there's a plus or minus there, which, by the way, approximately 1.4, 1.14, 1.41. 1.41. We'll just approximate it. So x plus 3 is plus or minus 1.41. That means x is equal to positive 1.41 minus 3. X is equal to negative 1.41 minus 3, which is negative 1.586. Or x is equal to negative 4.414. So our assumption was correct. Remember on the previous page we said it's between -4 and 5? Between -2 and -1. Alright. Sometimes we can just set the y value is equal to something else. In this case, y value is equal to -4. So just like the left side, we can do it equal to -4. So y is -4. The process stays the same. Subtract 4 from both sides. I'm going to do it a little fast. Divided by -2. Square root both sides. By the way, square root of 4 is 2. So x is equal to plus or minus 2 minus 3. So x is equal to 2 minus 3. X is equal to -2 minus 3. So it's -5. And x is equal to -1. So 2 x values. When you solve the equation f of x is equal to 0, what do the result of x represent graphically? Does this happen concur with what you concluded about the special values on the pages before? Well, let's see. So what does f of x equal to 0 represent graphically? It represents x values when y is equal to 0. Isn't that what we did? Yeah, it represents x value when y is equal to 0. In other words, it's the same as the zeros of the f of x. Cool? Alright, explain how you result for x when you solve above concur with f of x to the right. So, what does that mean again? This means x value when y is equal to -4, right? Because that's where the y goes to. Look at the graph. When y is -4, boop, boop, what are your x values? -1 and -5. So x value is -1 and -5. Is that same as what you find over here? Oops. Yep. So matching. So that's good. So this is the key for today's lesson. In summary, when you evaluate f of a, what does the result represent graphically? It represents y value when x is equal to a. So, right? Because whole thing represents the y value when x is equal to a. Alright, what about this? When you have a f of x is equal to a, what does that represent? It represents x value when y is equal to a. Cool? So sometimes we ask you to find the y value, sometimes we ask you to find the x value. So let's go. Look at this example on the next page. Find the value of g of -6. So what are we trying to find? We're trying to find the y value when x is -6. So when x is -6, what's the y value? -1. That's how you do it. Are you getting it? Alright. Hold on. Oh, I didn't read the direction. It says use the equation to verify. Okay, so I shouldn't use the graph. I should use the equation. Let's go. G of -6 is equal to, take it, plug it into the x. -4 minus 5. 4 minus 5 is 4 minus 5 is -1. So my y value is -1. Look at the graph. When x is -6, y value is -1. Check. I'm just going to use the graph to check it. One more, g of 1. So take that one, plug it into the x to find the y value. G of 1 is absolute value 1 plus 2 minus 5. Absolute value 3 minus 5. 3 minus 5, that is -2. Y value is -2. Let's see on the graph. When x is 1, is y value -2? Yes, check. Now, other way. For what values of x does g of x is equal to -4? So what is this asking? It's asking you to find x when y is -4. Okay, so the whole thing has to be equal to -4. I'm going to put it up here. The whole thing has to be equal to -4. Let's solve it. Add 5 to both sides. And now what do you do here? How do you solve the absolute value function? You set that equal to +1. You set that equal to -1. X is equal to -1. X is equal to -3. Well, let's check it on your graph. When y value is -4, what are the x value? -1 and -3. So that's good. Okay, one more. One more. No, not that one. Let's do this one. Let's do this one. Alright. H of -1, so find the y value when x is -1. So that's x, plug it in. -2, -1 plus 6 plus 3 is -2. Absolute value of, square root of 5. Plus 3, that's going to be about -1.472. Let's check your graph. When x is -1, y value is between -1 and -2, so it makes sense. This one, find the x value when y is 1, right? So find the x value when the y, the whole thing is 1. -2 square root x plus 6 plus 3 is equal to 1. So that's how you set it up. Subtract 3 from both sides. Divided by -2. Now what? You square both sides. X plus 6 is 1. X is -5. Let's see, when y value is 1, what's the x value? -5. Check. Cool. Alright. Thank you. I was trying to make it short, but I wasn't successful at doing that. Now go ahead and do the following problems on your Delta Math, and you are good to go. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.